Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. Today we're going to talk about one of the most common trees or shrubs, it depends on the variety, that grow in my area. It's the locust tree. Now that's the Robinia family, and there's some, how would I put it, there's some controversy over whether the black locust is really even in the same family as the honey locust. They have very different qualities. Your black locust is a leguminous plant. Is that right? Wait a minute. It's black locust leguminous and honey locust is not. I think that's right. One of them does seem to have those nitrogen fixing properties, whereas the other one doesn't. They're probably fairly related, even if though more than likely taxonomists are going to make a differentiation. The honey locust is a much larger tree, for one thing. The wood is a different quality. The seed pods have an edible pulp, which is actually very sweet. You can use it as basically a molasses or syrup substitute. You can make beer out of it. It's really good. Your black locust is also a very thorny tree. Generally does not get much taller than, say, a dogwood. Now, I have seen a few that are a bit bigger, but it's not like a big old honey locust. Both are very thorny. The black locust seed pods are not edible. So there's 6 varieties of locusts that have been found useful in herbal medicine, and I don't even know, they're like maybe a dozen shrub type locusts and a couple of trees in my region, and the honey locust has been naturalized. So we'll start with, interestingly, Resources of the Southern Fields and Forests described yellow locust as a false acacia. Now, the honey locust, if I'm not mistaken, is actually closely related to the acacia. Well, anyway, they describe it growing in North Carolina and South Carolina, from Charleston up to the mountains, basically. And so the bark of the root is tonic, good for the stomach, in other words, good for digestion. And in large doses, emetic and purgative, so it'll make you throw up and have diarrhea, essentially. The flowers are aromatic and emollient, meaning softening. An antispasmodic syrup is prepared for them. A doctor was quoted, Gendron, I guess, said that when given to infants it produced sleep, but also vomiting and sometimes slight convulsions. So that's probably not a good idea whatsoever. There were 3 cases of poisoning in children from eating the root, but they all recovered. And apparently, because of that narcotic effect, Kids used to like to play around with it a little bit, but probably not a very good idea. Now, King's American Dispensatory says of locust in general, and they don't really get into the specific. They said chemical composition from the root of this plant. You can isolate the compound asparagine, which is also an asparagus. The flowers contain a yellow crystallized glucoside called Robina. That's where it gets the name from. Some quercetin and a non-fermentable sugar. The bark of the locust tree, when chewed, produces a violent emetocatharsis, so again, throwing up and diarrhea. Authors searching for the poisonous principle found it in the albuminous body, which is tasteless, soluble in water, and insoluble in alcohol, coagulated by heat. Let's see what medicinal uses it has. A decoction of the root bark is tonic in small doses, but emetic and purgative in large ones. An ounce of the bark boiled in 3 gills of water. A gill, I can't remember the exact measurement. I think it's about a little more than a cup or a little less than a cup. But anyway, they're making a decoction, okay, where you take the water 2 parts to 1, boil it down till the water is reduced by half. And it says the decoction operates in cathartic as a dose of a ½ ounce. The bark is supposed to possess some acronarcotic properties. The juice has been known to produce coma and slight convulsion. An overdose has produced symptoms very similar to those resulting from an improper dose of belladonna, and at the same time cured a case of fever and ague. So there's a trade-off for you. You might have a coma. You'll probably be knocked out and hallucinating, but it may help with your fever. I'm thinking maybe stay away from that. The yellow locust seems to be the one they're really talking about. The flowers possess antispasmodic properties and form an excellent and agreeable syrup. And yes, in all the locusts we use the flowers. We use them as edible wild plants and medicinally. The flowers possess antispasmodic properties and form an excellent and agreeable syrup. In the South we say syrup. That just slipped in. Sorry. The leaves in doses of 30 grains every 20 minutes operate mildly and efficiently as an emetic. The drug should be tested for its effect on the gastrointestinal and nervous affections. Now, I am not aware that really any scientific studies on locusts have really ever been performed medicinally. Plants for Future says of black locust, it is febrifuge. That means it helps with the fever. The flowers are antispasmodic, aromatic, diuretic, not diarrheic, but like the bark could be. We'll go with diuretic, emollient, and laxative. They are cooked and eaten for the treatment of eye ailments. I've never heard of eating them for eye ailments. I have heard of using them as a poultice or a wash. That's pretty common. But yeah, that's interesting. The flower is said to contain the anti-tumor compound. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this one. No, I'm not going to try. The inner bark and root bark are emetic, purgative, and tonic. The root bark has been chewed to induce vomiting or held in the mouth to allay toothache. Though it is rarely, if ever, prescribed as a therapeutic agent in Britain, the fruit is narcotic. So, black locust, yellow locust, don't eat the seed pods, okay? You're probably going to get real sick and maybe die. Honey locust, totally different plant. The leaves are a cholagogue and emetic, and the leaf juice inhibits viruses. So a juice of the leaves has some antiviral properties. Peterson Field Guides to Eastern and Central Medicinal Plants states, American Indians chewed the root bark to induce vomiting, held the root bark in the mouth to allay toothaches, used as a folk tonic, purgative, and emetic, flower tea used in rheumatism. In China, the root bark is also considered purgative and emetic. The flowers are considered diuretic. Flowers contain a glycoside called Robina, which is where we get Robina from, or vice versa, which is experimentally diuretic. Warning, all parts are toxic, and even honey derived from the flowers is said to be toxic. The strong odor of the flowers has been reported to cause nausea and headaches in some persons. And yeah, when the locusts are in bloom, it is a very strong scent, and it can be maybe a bit nauseating. When I lived in a town called Fosco, a little unincorporated community in the mountains of North Carolina, we had, I don't even know, a few dozen black locusts in the backyard. And that's when I learned about making fritters out of the flowers and such. In fact, I have an entry on this in my spring foraging cookbook. I think I'll pull that up real quick. Yeah, I might as well tie that in since we're on the same subject. But anyway, this one I learned about locusts really because they have big old thorns on them, big heavy thorns, really tear you up. And of course, I used to mow the lawn, cut the grass all around them in tight with the lawnmower, and I would just get scratched up like crazy. But yeah, the scent, if you're allergic to it, could definitely cause a headache, could definitely cause hay fever. But yeah, it is known for making people a little nauseous sometimes, if you're not used to it. So, all right, let's see. Pulling up the spring foraging cookbook here. Let me go down to the entry on locust. Now, the first entry for the first part of the show we did was on, well, that's odd. I don't have locust in the spring foraging cookbook. Yeah, wait a minute. I'm sure I do. It's got to be, I must be looking at under the wrong title. Maybe it's under, there it is, Black Locust. I write a book and I forget totally what I've written. People come back to me and say, in this book, let me ask you, I'm like, wow, did I write that? I don't remember that. And then I go pull it up and I'm like, oh, yeah, I did write that. And then everything comes back to me and I can answer their question. But anyway, where was I? So I was saying how the locust can make you a little dizzy. It can make you a little nauseous. Can really scratch you up. Now, honey from black locust trees is actually pretty good. Apparently, there are some locusts, probably the yellow locust we were talking about, that can be an issue. But the bees around where we lived would harvest from wildflowers, including the black locust flower. Never bothered me a bit at all. But anyway, so black locust flowers, just breaded and fried, have been a favorite in the Appalachians for generations. I mean, folks made black locust flower fritters, mixing them into a little pancake or cornbread type of batter, and just deep fried it and ate it. I mean, that was like a traditional spring meal. Really good, in fact, especially breakfast with a little bacon on the side, a little sausage. Really nice. Really, I think the flowers are probably the least toxic part of the tree. But, you would want to be careful. And if you do have an allergy, maybe not try eating the flowers. So, black locust, as I mentioned, is leguminous. That's the one that's leguminous. Honey locust apparently is not. Some sources say it is. Others say it's not. Bill Mollison, the father of permaculture, was real big on planting honey locust to reforest the landscape, believing that it was a leguminous tree. More recently, permaculture and arborists and foresters have said it's not. I don't know. The only way you could really find out, it has seed pods like a bean, so you would think it would be leguminous. But the only way you'd really find out would be to use a microscope and go into the soil and see if that bacterial and fungal relationship is present on the little root hairs. And if it is, then it's a leguminous plant. If it's not, it's not. And I'm not into soil microbiology. That's just not my thing. I have friends that are professional permaculture teachers and writers who have big old microscopes and get into that big time. Old buddy Matt Powers is so into soil microbiology. And I can see why he is. It's fascinating. I mean, everything, when you look at the stuff under a microscope, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, it looks like a kaleidoscope. But that's not me. I'm more of a macro guy than a micro guy. on pretty much every level. I'm not a terribly into the details. I don't get into chemical formulas and all kinds of stuff like that. That's why I'm more of a folk herbalist than really a clinical herbalist. It's just I'm a big picture guy. I'm a just get it done, take care of it, do it. I'm not really up for the minutia. Um, I don't know. Some people are, some people aren't. I think it's more maybe a left brain, right brain thing. Maybe it's I don't know. I think a lot of larger framed men like myself. I mean, I'm 6'4". At my leanest, I'm usually run around 200 to 205 or so. When I've got a lot of muscle on me, I'm more like 210 to 240. I'm a pretty big guy usually. Uh, Blew out a knee a couple of years ago, and I haven't carried as much weight since because I haven't been able to work out as hard. But I'm pretty, large frame man. You think of Donald Trump. I mean, he's a big guy. You think of, I mean, so many people. You can think. What comes to mind when you think of a big man, right? Um, and I don't mean fat. I mean large skeletal frame, muscular, like my grandfather. Big picture people. They got a goal, they got a vision, they're going to get it done. They're not into the little stuff, the minutia, the details. And so sometimes we make mistakes. We get over our skis, as they say. I've known many men like that, especially working in politics or meeting, growing up in a resort town in the mountains of North Carolina, you meet just tons of millionaires on a daily basis, sometimes billionaires. Very often, large, loud, aggressive, high testosterone men. You also meet their attorneys and their accountants and their secretaries and and they tend to be smaller framed, more detail oriented. I don't know if it's what we would call in herbalism constitutions. When we look at herbal energetics, people that tend to be more bold, robust, larger frame tend to react differently with herbs and have different ailments than people that tend to be more cool-tempered, meticulous, detail-oriented, smaller framed. It's genetics. I mean, what are you going to do? I think our society makes a huge mistake in treating everyone or making the assumption that everyone is equal in terms of outcome or ability or where they start out in life. I mean, we start out with this precept of all men are created equal. What we mean is all men are equal under the eyes of God and under the law. We don't mean that each person has an equal ability in every field. But especially over the last 50 years or so, our society at large, our culture, I guess, has decided that is what the assumption means. But in your life, if you're going to be honest, you know that some people are smarter than others. Some people are stronger than others. Some people can run faster than others. Some people are more charismatic than others. Some people are more attractive than others. Some people come from wealth. Some people come from poverty. Some people have better overall health. Some people are prone to sickness and disease. Some people are good with numbers. Some people are good with words. Some people are good with computer programming and some are painters. I mean, some are meant to be soldiers and some are meant to be accountants. That's just the way it is. We have a great diversity of personality types, body types, and talents. But we're supposed to assume that all people are equally qualified for whatever job. We're supposed to assume that all people are equally capable in every field, regardless genetics, regardless education, regardless background, regardless physical strength, mental ability. And then we're supposed to say, well, the only difference between these two people is their race or their gender. And that's just insanity. That's just insanity. Very few people in this world could do my job. What is my job? My job is to have studied herbal medicine for over 30 years and essentially memorized hundreds of books. I got all those details in my head. So as an herbal educator, I can tell you this herb has been historically used for this purpose. Very few people can play guitar like I do. I've been playing guitar for, again, like 30 years, and I got a chance to study with different people. It would be insanity for someone to say, okay, so Bob Smith over here, who doesn't have my background in informal education, we could have the same college degree, right? We could have the same high school diploma. We could come from the same neighborhood and have the same color skin. He hasn't shared my experience. He can't do my job. Well, I mean, it would be equally insane to think that I could go play basketball like Michael Jordan. Physically, or LeBron James or anybody, or pick a white guy, Larry Bird, right? Physically, we're built differently. They run faster than I do. I've never been a fast runner. We may be about the same height, but they spent their lifetimes playing basketball. You can't take the two of us and say we're equally good at basketball or we're equally good at herbal medicine. So why would we be equally qualified to be anything from a congressman to a nurse? No, everybody's individualistic and different, and everybody has their own talents. And, when you try to just say everybody is the same and they're only differentiated by race or economic background, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. At his peak, the man was absolutely huge. Lou Ferrigno. If you could go back in time and take a tape measure and measure their wrists and ankles, you would see that they are much thicker than those of the average man, even of the same height and weight. Well, maybe not weight. I mean, you can be really fat and have thick ankles, but I mean, okay, let's say the same height, at the same age. They had a larger bones and larger musculature from birth. You could take a guy with a smaller frame, smaller bones. The two could even get to be the same strength. That strength, there are often weightlifters that are very, very strong because, well, of various factors, but they're not as large in their musculature. Lou Ferrigno and Arnold Schwarzenegger were always going to be bigger men. There was no way for anyone else, even lifting the same amount of weight, even on the same diet, even do the same routine, to be Mr. Universe, like Schwarzenegger was, or the Incredible Hulk, like Ferrigno was. Bruce Lee. Yeah, he trained like crazy. Probably trained to the point that he killed himself. He was fast, like insanely fast. His reflexes were mind-blowing. You could take someone of a different set of genetics and put him through the same training program, and he was still going to kick that guy's butt. I mean, Bruce Lee, yeah. And I mean, just, and not heavily muscled. Very muscular, but not big muscles like, Ferrigno or somebody. And what's true physically is also true mentally. We all have our own mental capacity. We have our, there's a certain amount of knowledge that's just going to stick in our heads, and there's a certain level of logic that we're going to be able to do, and that's really decided before birth. I mean, that is our genetic makeup, and you can expand it to some point. But one person's going to come into the world with the capacity to reach a level of, say, 150 IQ. Another person is going to come into the world with the capacity to only hit about 90. And you can put them through the same classes with the same teachers, and the one that has that genetic capacity to hit 150 is always going to be smarter, mentally more fast, able to solve puzzles, able to do things more accurately, to retain more information than the other. And, Some people come into the world more attractive than others. This whole idea of equality of outcome is insane. Equal treatment under the law, meaning we don't show favoritism, is the foundation. That's what all men are created equal means. Equality in the eyes of God. All men and women can become saints or be the worst sinners. That's what our founding document means. It doesn't mean that everyone should make the same amount of money. It doesn't mean that two people that have the same job should be paid the same amount if one of them's better at the job than the other. It doesn't mean anything beyond that. And it certainly doesn't mean equality of outcome. Trust me. Put me in, I don't even know, Olympic race, running track with, what was his name, Usain Bolt or whatever, I can't remember. I don't watch the Olympics. I hate the Olympics, actually. But put me on the track with him, he's going to blow me away. I mean, I'm going to be just left in the dust. And he's born with a genetic makeup to be able to run that fast, and then he applied himself to it and trained hard. I'm born with a genetic makeup of not being able to run fast at all. I would much sooner fight than run, even if I know I'm going to lose, but the alternative if somebody's chasing me is I'm going to get out of breath, worn out, and then they're going to beat the crap out of me. I mean, I'm built to stand my ground and fight. I'm not built to run. Very much to that effect. I'm actually very good at fighting, and I'm actually very strong, and pretty tough. I can take a punch pretty well. Other people are born to run, not to quote Springsteen intentionally, but it's just our makeup. They're also some people are born to scream and ask for help. That's true as well, and it comes down to genetics. But equality of outcome is just really stupid. Actually, it's illogical, it's irrational, and it's impossible. Anyway, so black locust has somewhat of a perfumey flower. The scent's sweet, and it has hints of vanilla and maybe gardenia. That's like, some people find that sweet scent kind of nauseating, but if you like it, and I do, even I do actually. Some folks enjoy making a syrup of the blossoms and using that syrup with vanilla ice cream, because it does have sort of a floral vanilla scent to it. But overall, my tastes tend to run more to the savory than to the sweet, and cooked alone with oil and salt, not battered and fried. I usually mix in a few savory herbs and just fry them up and have them as a side dish, much as I would the related redbud blossoms. Not bad at all, but they're much better if you include some wild onion, shallot, and chives, in my opinion, because I do like the savory. And you get the kind of aromatic combined with the bitter, combined with savory. That's pretty good. Herbs de Provence is really a classic French combination of Mediterranean herbs, oregano, rosemary, etc., that often includes lavender flowers as an aromatic bitter. I am allergic to lavender, so I'll make sort of a similar combination with black locust blossoms. Really good, specifically good with pork. In fact, anything fatty but pork and chicken, really good with that combination of herbs de Provence. You can cook it together with fresh garden peas or green beans. Again, you're combining legumes, and the flavors really complement each other. Add a little garlic, splash lemon juice, and I mean, just as a side dish. Really, I've never been a big fan of trout almondine. I like trout, but it's so mild. I mean, trout's going to taste like what you cook it with. So once I realized I could bread and fry trout with in butter and olive oil, and then add this like black locust blossom herb de Provence and some chopped nuts. I don't really have almonds growing where I live, but I do have black walnuts and hickory nuts, really good. Pecans or pecans, however you want to say them. Wild onions, ramps, a little dash of white wine or some dry vermouth, which is even better. fry it up, get it nice and crispy. You bread it, take it off, cook up your veggies and nuts in the pan, take them out, put it over the fish, add some more butter, cream together what's left in the pan, and just serve it right over. Salt and pepper to taste. Mushrooms, absolutely sauteed mushrooms, and a few capers are really nice. Give that little sourness to balance out the butter. Or pickled dandelions or nasturtium blossoms. I've told you how to make capers out of dandelion and nasturtium blossoms. Fantastic. Just salt and pepper to taste. You can add forsythia blossoms to that as well. Redbud blossoms. Do that quite a bit. The forsythia I would substitute for probably the locust blossoms. Get that slight bitterness. Red bud tastes like sweet green peas, so that just kind of gives you a little more sweetness to it. Just serve with a good glass of white wine, some crusty bread to soak up all the butter and the wine and herb sauce, and yeah, that's really good. Of course, you can do the same thing with chicken breasts or small game birds, quail, squab or dove. What is squab? Squab is pigeon. That's just pigeons we eat. What's the difference between the pigeon you eat and the pigeon sitting on your power line or up on the roof? Nothing, except squab is usually farm raised. You can absolutely eat the pigeons that are around. This is, but seriously, it is a restaurant quality dish. Beautiful, plated up with all those flowers and fresh spring ingredients. Slice of lemon. I mean, you would pay at least $50 a plate for the same thing in most restaurants, and you can make it yourself, and it wouldn't cost you. If you catch the fish, it's not going to cost you a thing. I mean, butter, you have to pay for the butter and the wine. Okay, so it's going to cost you about $1.50. Let's just go with that. Probably not that much either. I mean, you're not using that much wine or butter, so like less than $1. So you can make this and just absolutely show off because no one's going to be able to buy that in a restaurant. And, it's nice. Just do be sure, if you do use nuts, whether it's almonds or walnuts or pecans or whatever, don't burn them. Really, when you begin to smell the nuts, they're already starting to burn. Put them in, splash them around, just brown them up a little bit, get them off the heat immediately. When they brown, they get bitter. You really don't want to do that. Add them just before you put in the wine and just barely cook them. And go simple on it. Don't overdo the herbs. It's a simple dish. It's not super complex. Don't confuse the palate. In other words, you want to be able to taste each ingredient. If you're using black locust blossoms, you want to be able to taste and smell them. If you're using nuts, you want to be able to taste and smell them. And of course, the fish is probably the most mild of all ingredients. That's one reason I like to use mushrooms in the sauce, because the mushrooms actually bring out the flavor of trout pretty well. Lemon juice is essential. Lemon juice is really the only way you're going to taste the trout is if you put lemon on it. Trout is just so mild. I mean, really. Now, it does depend on what time of year, and I'm thinking early spring trout. It's not real fatty at that point, so it does have a lighter flavor. And I'm talking just, rainbow trout and cutties and brook trout. I'm not talking like a big, heavy lake trout, which is fattier and is going to taste more like I wouldn't say more like salmon, but they're in the same family, so you will get more of a stronger flavor. I actually prefer that if I'm going to eat the fish just by itself. But yeah, they're all delicious but mild. You really have to figure out how to enhance the natural flavor of trout. And I guess for that reason, it's probably most people's favorite fish because it's so not fishy, because it's so not strong in flavor. And a lot of people don't like that, don't like a strong flavored fish. Me, I like a fish that has some punch to it. I mean, I don't mean, off fishy flavors. I want my fish fresh. It should not even smell like fish. It should smell like the water it came out of. And then, I like a fish that I can identify. My favorite fish of all is red snapper or red drum. Red snapper being the top. That's my favorite fish of all time. Next to that would probably be a sheep's head or a sea trout. Sea trout's very good. I love flounder. Fresh bluefish cooked within like 5 minutes of being caught, phenomenal. Tuna is a fattier fish. If you like tuna, you would love bluefish if it's cooked the right way. Um, yeah, I mean there are a bunch more. I like a good grouper and pompano, and I'm talking all saltwater fish here. When it comes to freshwater fish, probably bluegills, perch. I love some perch. Crappie, red ear, pumpkin seed. Those just fried up are great. Small bass are really good. Um, Catfish. If it's good, if it's clean water, it's a fresh catfish. Fried catfish is phenomenal. Smoked is even better. Um, yeah, trout. I guess if I was going to rank fish from my favorite to my least favorite, trout's going to come somewhere down there in the teens. I mean, it's not going to be in my top 10, but it is so mild and so easy to cook that, I mean, you can make it 100 different ways and you can make it really good. One of my favorite ways to do trout, I eat a lot of trout. I'm not putting trout down at all. I mean, it's what's in the streams where I live in the mountains, so I eat a ton of it. Just, I guess maybe to people on the coast, trout would be a delicacy. For me in the mountains, seafood's a delicacy. But lemon pepper trout, so easy, so good. You just fillet or butterfly that trout, or you could leave it whole. But I mean, really, it's easier if you fillet it or butterfly it. Take some lemon pepper, which usually is a seasoning blend you can get from any grocery store. Dust it down, fry it in butter, and serve it up. It's ready in 5 minutes, and that's actually really good. Um, that would probably make my top 10 fish dishes. Serve with a glass of wine, salad, it's just knockout. Some French fries. Fried is good. Fried trout is good, but it says very mild. Um, Definitely needs some lemon juice. Um, Roulades are nice. Fish cakes are nice. Smoked trout is excellent. Smoked trout is one of the best smoked fish, and trout roe is a caviar. I mean, it's fantastic. Um, yeah, I can't really think. I mean, grilled is nice. Grilled with onions and lemon, a little bit of olive oil, always good. Um, it's just so mild. It's not like something I'm gonna make into a chowder, a fish chowder. I'm not gonna. Fish cakes are okay. Definitely not gonna do a curry with it. Um, Poached trout is nice. Now, if you want to do like a court bouillon, not a Cajun coubillon, but a court bouillon, just a little water with a little parsley and bay leaf, a little onion, um, tarragon, a little white wine. Bring it up to simmer. Just lower the trout in there till it's just cooked, till it just starts to flake. Bring it out and serve it. But I mean, it's so mild. I mean, it's just ridiculously mild. If you know people that don't like fish, trout's always the fish to serve them. Now, a lot of people would say tilapia or even freshwater perch, but um, tilapia is fine if you actually catch it wild in clean waters, which it's not native to America, so you're probably not going to, or if it's actually raised in clean water, especially in like an aquaculture system. Tilapia is great. Problem is with farm-raised tilapia. The majority of what we get in the United States is brought in from Asia, where they actually raise them in sewage. The tilapia that you get in a restaurant or you buy in the grocery store, more than likely, I mean, there's at least a 50% chance, has been raised in sewage, human waste. And it's full of chemicals and pharmaceuticals and nastiness. Nastiness. I mean, there have been stories of where tilapia have been sent in whole and processed here, gutting them and finding tampons inside. I mean, they're literally being raised in the sewer in Asian countries and then sold to America as like this mild tasting, really nice fish. Yeah, we don't need that crap. I mean, recently we had to do a recall on radioactive shrimp being sold at Walmart coming in from Asia. America really needs to, one, clean up our waters, clean up our rivers, our lakes, and our ocean. our shores, our inland waterways, and our territory of ocean. Clean it up. And then we need to really support local fishermen. Get rid of a lot of the regulations that prevent people from catching fish and just selling them to their neighbor. But for commercial fishermen, they need to have an even playing field. They don't need to compete against radioactive shrimp being brought in from China or disgusting tilapia. And the American consumer needs to redevelop an adventurous passion for seafood. Don't, bite into, oh, this fish is a little fishy. Well, yeah, it's fish. You like tuna salad? That's a lot fishier than most of the fish you're going to buy. But for some people, for some reason, when people go to a restaurant, they think their fish isn't supposed to taste like fish. It's ridiculous, but we're the same way with pork. I mean, they bred domestic pork in the 70s and 80s to make it the other white meat. Pork isn't naturally a white meat. It's your pork chop's not supposed to look and taste like a chicken breast, but that's what the consumer demanded. How about we develop a taste that says, ooh, I like pork or I don't like pork. I like fish or I don't like fish. I don't want a fish that doesn't taste like fish, and I don't want a pig that doesn't taste like a pig. Well, the same is true with chicken. They bred a lot of the flavor out of chicken and a lot of the color out of the meat as well. An older chicken has a different color than most of the chicken that you get in the grocery store. But anyway, it's going to take a real change of mindset that values fresh and local, seasonal ingredients that have a unique flavor over McDonald's chicken nuggets. And what's that going to take? Well, it's going to start with the parents. Parents are going to have to say, sorry, little Johnny and little Jenny, I guess. Excuse me. You can't have chicken nuggets every day. You can't have, disgusting frozen pizza. You can't have SpaghettiOs. You're going to have real food. And I'm going to tell you, this is really good food, and you're going to like it. And your tastes are going to develop and mature as you grow up, and you're going to become a real gourmet. You're going to come to like collard greens and parsnips and turnips and fresh fish and game meats and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as opposed to quarter pounders and chicken nuggets. You're not going to die of heart disease or diabetes when you're in your 30s. You're not going to develop, whatever. Anyway, I can go down that route. You're going to eat a real natural diet because this is what we eat in our family, and there's no alternative. We're not going to McDonald's. We're not going to Hardee's. We're not going to Pizza Hut or, whatever. This is our dinner, and if you don't eat it, well, you don't have food tonight. You're going to go to bed hungry. Pretty soon that kid's going to develop a taste for beets and spinach real quick because, trust me, eating beets and spinach is a lot more pleasant than going to bed hungry. But in order to do that, you're going to have parents that actually cook meals at home and don't pick up a bunch of takeout and don't bring in a bunch of Doritos and Coke and Pepsi, who actually make real food and feed real food to their families and sit down to dinner and eat together, and everything isn't done on the run and it's not all fast food and convenience food and snacks. You do that and we can support our farmers and our fishermen and our ranchers, and it's not just a bunch of cheap crap coming in from China and South America, and a lot of the shrimp in America comes from Argentina. That's a big issue. Their fishermen make a lot less money than ours do, so they can bring a product to a store cheaper. It's not as good a quality shrimp. It's not as fresh, but people, don't know the difference because you don't know the difference unless you learn to taste the difference. But anyway, we could actually have a vibrant agricultural and fishing and ranching industry in the United States servicing entirely our domestic clientele, our domestic audience, whatever you want to say. We produce far more food in America than Americans can eat. A lot of it gets destroyed, just burned. left to rot. And meanwhile, our farmers and fishers and ranchers and etc. are being priced out of the market by cheap Asian imports that are often contaminated. Then you got the whole fake meat crap. You got the vegan garbage. I mean, here's this vegan food. It's so good for you. It's not based out of animals. Meanwhile, it has like a cup and a half of MSG in it, and 3 cups of salt, and artificial colors and artificial flavorings, and it's probably going to give you cancer in about 2 meals. But anyway, it's vegan, so it's got to be good for you, right? No. And then we got all our stupid government regulations that make it illegal for people to just go out and catch a few fish and sell a couple extra to their neighbor. Or, you're a single guy, you kill a deer, you got plenty of meat for yourself. Why can't you take a fourth of it and sell it to a neighbor or two? But that's illegal. That's stupid. So because of that, the deer population gets out of control. There's not enough predation, because that's what herd animals are designed for. A specific percentage of that herd is supposed to be killed each year by other animals, including human beings. They're not, so they're ending up destroying people's landscaping, getting hit on the highways, mass wasting disease, that brain disease, whatever it's called, that will go through herds and just wipe them out. All that could be managed very efficiently if you just let someone go out and take a couple of deer and sell one to a neighbor or two. Why the hell can't they? I mean, we pay our taxes. This is our country. Why? I mean, when did the American government basically adopt the dictates or the assumptions of England where that says we own all the land and you're poaching the king's deer? No. I mean, yeah, they had to put in some controls during the Great Depression when people were starving, and they were taking a few more deer than was good for the population. Now we got more deer. Geese, Canada geese are taking down airplanes. They're a plague in many places. And still, the hunting of geese is so regulated in this country, it's ridiculous. You have to have a shotgun that only holds 3 shells of a specific caliber. You have to have a plug in that shotgun so you can't slip in an extra shell. You have to get your license and your tags. You are strictly limited, and you absolutely cannot sell a goose to somebody else. That's ridiculous. The golf courses are covered in geese. They're like vermin. It's not good for the goose population. It's not good for the human population, especially when they keep bringing down airplanes and killing people. I mean, I've known several people who have hit geese driving along. They just flown right into their windshield and just about killed them. A flock of geese almost killed me one time. I was driving on a wet road. It was raining, and they just came right out into traffic, and I hit the brakes and started skidding. But our laws do not reflect reality. Our laws are, on the one hand, preventing our domestic fishermen from being able to compete with Asia and South America and such, and then will subsidize the fishermen for their losses. So essentially, you're paying somebody not to fish. Now that's that varies by state, and that's if you're lucky, and it's usually your family's been in this fishery business for so many generations, you get to qualify for that program. Everybody else is just out of luck. Meanwhile, you might go down to your local clean spot of water, if you have one, whether it's a lake or a river, and you throw out a trot line or you spend a night fishing for catfish, and you catch more than you can eat. What do you do? Well, I guess you have to throw them back. Well, wouldn't it be good, especially in times of economic distress, or if you've lost your job, if you could stick 2 or 3 of them in the freezer and take 3 or 4 and sell them to your neighbors? Yeah, it really would. You would think on this land that our ancestors fought and died for, we'd have a right to do that very thing, wouldn't you? But unless you live in certain states like Louisiana, a few others, you can't do that. In North Carolina, you cannot do that. There are certain exceptions, but anyway, for the most part, You cannot do that. And yeah, it gets even more specific when you get into saltwater fish and shrimp and crabs and all that. It's just ridiculous. I mean, we could get a lot of people off of welfare and Medicaid and such if we could just let them go out and, you know, catch a few fish and sell them to their neighbors. Used to say, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach him to fish, he'll eat for life. And now it's like, prevent a man from fishing and put him on government assistance. And then the vegans will tell him he's bad if he eats a fish. It makes no sense whatsoever. But it's even more, oh gosh, it's so bad when it comes to game. I mean, we really do have an issue with deer and geese. We actually really should stop stigmatizing the wearing of fur, because we got a huge issue with coyotes, and those people should be able to go out and trap those coyotes or shoot those coyotes. They're really disrupting ecosystems. If you really care about the environment, you have to get rid of the non-native coyotes. They're not native to east of the Mississippi, or at least reduce their numbers so they're not just absolutely disrupting entire ecosystems. But you wear fur, and some, animal rights person is going to go throw paint at you if you're lucky. And meanwhile, a coyote eats 70 pounds of meat a day. They're wiping out entire species. They don't care. They're all self-righteous. But then you get into foraging, mushroom hunting. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We're so overregulated to the point that it's hard for someone to make an honest living using the bounty of God's creation. And on the other hand, you got other countries that do not have our best interests in mind, where people are making less than $1 a day or $1 a week, and they can just dump, nasty shrimp and tilapia, or questionable meats, or, in medicinal herbs. A lot of what's imported into the country is impure, and there's no regulation on it. You're regulated up the butt, so to speak, in America, if you want to go into the business of selling herbs either by themselves, plain, or in preparations like tinctures and such. It's ridiculous. Meanwhile, in most Asian countries and South American countries and different places, there's like no check or regulate. They're not inspected. They send you, they ship in 20 or 30 pounds of pick your herb. What herb you want to use? St. John's wort. That's not really an Asian herb, but we'll go with that. There's no one checking to see, is this actually St. John's wort? How fresh is this St. John's wort? Where and how was it harvested? Did it come from a protected area? Is it endangering the environment there, the over-harvesting? None of that. So they ship it in at like 30 cents a pound, and meanwhile our domestic producers can't make a living, can't put food on their table unless they sell it for $10 or $20 or $30 a pound. And what do you think happens? Anyway, yeah, black locust is the one I use of the locusts, the Robinas. Honey locust, I do collect the pods to use as a sugar substitute. Really good, very closely related to carob, by the way. So definitely a great tree to have around. Very useful wood. The locust, the black locust posts are perfect for fencing because they will not rot. They don't have to be treated. Wonderful, useful plants. Some of them are leguminous, which means they self-fertilize and fertilize anything you grow around them. So it's really good to plant them around your gardens and such, or let tomatoes, vining tomatoes, climb up them. And, black locust good, government regulations bad. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, do your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.